Balthasar's point was that we had allowed Catholic theology to turn the great image of Christ into, in a sense, something that had been deconstructed by modern biblical criticism, modern philosophy, even modern theology, and that he had been dissected and torn apart by scissors and paste approaches to the scriptures, so that the great towering whole figure was lost. And so Balthasar had a favorite word. It was Gestalt, which is a German word which means the whole form. And so Balthasar was intent on retrieving what he considered the form of Christ from biblical revelation in its totality, in its wholeness, and therefore to display its inner cohesion, its inner coherence as a gestalt, as a form. And therefore, it would then show forth what he called splendor, light, beauty, hence theological aesthetics. And he believed that that image, that figure, was very compelling and was sort of self-justifying. That, in other words, you didn't need to engage in all kinds of fancy philosophical and theological apologetics in order to justify this figure. This figure stood on its own uniqueness, its own absoluteness, its own singularity, its own beauty. And if we would just get out of the way and, in a sense, represent this great figure, we would see it in all of its beauty. Now, part of that beauty also entails not just something visual, but something dramatic. So the second part of his great trilogy was called the Theodramatics, or Theodrama, because Christ didn't just sort of appear and show us something, he did something. He engaged our freedom. And so this great Christ form is also a form that beckons, that calls, that provokes. And Balthasar called this provocation the Ernstfall, which is a German word which means a crisis moment, where you must make a decision. So this great form evokes from us decision, and that decision is then part of the theodramatic interplay between God's freedom and our freedom, that then is, in a sense, the meaning of all of history. History is the playground where God's freedom and our freedom interact. And out of all of that, the theological, the beauty of the form, the action that it provokes, comes a certain internal truth, logic. And that's the third part of his great trilogy, was called the Theologic, which then unpacked in a more straightforward way the truths that were contained in that aesthetic and that dramatic for dogmatics, doctrine, these kinds of things.